but I think it's pretty cool. So, all right, lesson today is 12.5, angle relationships in circles. So just to kind of like talk about things just for a sec, we've talked about what? Central angles, which are these ones, and we've talked about inscribed angles, which are these ones here, right? Okay, and that's more or less it. We've also talked about quadrilaterals inside of a circle, which we just kind of went through. But that was kind of the gist of what we've talked about in a lot of ways. So today we're going to take it a little bit further. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about today is this kind of deal here. So what about if I've got an angle here? It's not like an inscribed angle, right? It's definitely not a central angle because the vertex, you see the vertex is here, it's not in the center. It's not an inscribed angle because an inscribed angle is made up of chords, right? And we see that this one here, BC, is not a chord, right? That's not a chord, okay? So it's not a central angle, it's not an inscribed angle. What it is an angle that's made up of one chord and then a line that's tangent to the circle. You see it's touching it in parallel, so it's touching it in just one point. Does that make sense? Well, whenever you have an angle like this, what you end up with is the measure of the angle is half the measure of the arc. So it's kind of like an inscribed angle in that the measure of the angle is half the measure of the arc. And you see that arc there, AB? Does that make sense? So the measure of this angle is half the measure of that arc. Simple as that. Okay? So if, for instance, if this arc was 100 degrees, what would this angle be equal to? 50. Very good. And vice versa, if the angle was 60 degrees, what would the arc be equal to?
120.
120. Good. Double, right? Okay. So you see that there's an example here, but I want to go straight into the question. So let's check it out. So find each measure. The first thing it's asking us to find is the measure of angle STU. So we identify the angle, STU. The vertex is in the center. They're talking about this angle. Well, look, I can see that this is the intercepted arc right here. You see that? Does that make sense? Okay, so if that's the intercepted arc, what's the angle? 83. Good. It's not supplementary or anything like that. It's just half. This angle is just half of the intercepted arc. Simple as that. Okay? Cool. So that's 83. And then we see the next thing it's asking us for the measure of the arc. Okay, now it's asking us for the measure of the arc. So I look, here's this angle is 71 degrees. So the arc will be 142. Double, exactly. You see that? Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Okay, let's Kahoot.
360?
What?
Out of 360?
What about out of 360?
Because...
No. If this plus this, if you knew this, it would add up to 360. But you see this arc is missing. See? But you're not really concerned about 360 here. You're just saying, oh, this is half of that, and that's double that. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Let's Kahoot. Let's Kahoot. Whoever's ADHD, I'm kicking you out. Don't do that.
How does it work? You just go to this,
Come on. 5.
Where's the tree at?
Okay.
I need it. Bro, I want to watch anime right now.
Mine's like a 100.
I want to rewatch Naruto.
Rewatch it? I hate it. That's like, wow.
Well, actually, I should catch up on Dragon Ball now.
Yeah,
Oh, One Piece.
Dragon Ball Super?
Yes.
You know, I used to watch that with my brother every week, and I'm behind by like 60 episodes. Who's not in?
Did you watch Naruto when you were younger? Or not really.
Not really. My brother watched all of it, and like Boruto too.
Boruto?
Boruto.
Yes.
Okay, don't laugh at me, but I watched Sailor Moon too.
I watched Sailor Moon. Come on.
Tuxedo Rose? What's up?
All right. Find the measure of arc PN.
Oh wait, I wasn't paying attention.
Find the measure of arc PN.
Oh,
So this angle is
incredibly
61. So what's that arc?
Huh. Okay, so it's definitely not what I just meant.
So Sam, we have to divide 238 by 2.
Let's see.
English should be.
Yeah, there it
That was from before.
is. 61 times 2.
What? I was about to put that. It's not fair.
That was not the complete screen, right? So what was that screen?
Mine's 68. I don't know. I was.
Alright. Just stay with us. Why don't you come sit up here so you can stay engaged and stay with the activity. It's not going to help you if you're not engaged. Okay. Find the measure of angle MNP.
Wait, what was the angle for the other one?
I just typed in.
MNP, look. The other one was 122. The last one was 122. Here's MNP. Look, here's MNP. What's the angle? If this arc is 238, the angle is what? Half of that. Very good. Good job, Olivia.
I'm in 9th place still.
Nice. You guys got that? Does that make sense? All right.
Third.
2021.
Okay. Shh. Let's move forward. Next little bit. Now, what if we have a situation like this? What if we have a situation like this where we have two chords that intersect, but they're not intersecting in the center? Yeah?
Wait, how did you do number 1? Like
You just double it.
So you type
The angle is 61, so times 2 is 122.
Oh, I thought we had to divide 236.
You were looking at the wrong one. Okay. Now, for this one, okay, what if I have two chords that intersect? I have this angle and this angle. How can I solve for this one? Well, in this case, these angles are equal to the average of the two arcs. Okay, how do you find the average? You add them up. Put your phone away, Marcus. You know better than that. You add them up, and you divide it by 2. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Say I've got a situation here. I've got a circle. I've got two lines that intersect. And I want to know how much these angles are, what these angles are equal to. Okay? I'll call that x. Well, it's equal to the average of these two arcs. So if this is A and this is B, then x, excuse me, thank you, equals A plus B
Divided by 2.
over 2. Exactly. That's it. It's just the average of the two. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Okay. Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
So, none of these whatchamacallits will be there during the quiz, so we'll just have to remember them.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the example. So in this example, it's asking for angle SQR. That's this one. SQR is this one right here. You see that? That's angle SQR. Well, I know that this angle is equal to that angle, right? So these are both the same because they're vertical. So that's just equal to, so the measure of angle SQR is equal to the average of 32 plus 100. Simple as that. 32 plus 100 over 2 is 132 over 2, which is 66 degrees. You see? Simple as that. Okay? Let's take a look at these examples. Okay. You go ahead now and try and do 2A by yourself. You should be able to do that. 2A. Do it by yourself. You can do it. Pencil to paper. You can do it. You can do it.
Did you want your calculator?
This one's horrible.
Yeah.
You just can't use it.
I know how to use it now, but the program is already on. Here you go. I know, right?
That's like you do calculus with that thing. All right. So I'm trying to find the measure of angle ABD. Well, I know ABD, this angle here, is just the average of these two arcs. So what do? Measure of angle ABD is equal to 65 plus 37 over 2. What's 65 plus 37? 102 divided by 2 is 51.
Wait, I did.
Wait, I got 80.
I did 102 times
So did
0.5.
I.
And I
I
got
got
51.
83.5 too.
102 times 0.5, same deal.
Same thing.
What else did you guys get?
I got 102, but I did times.
How'd you get 83.5?
65.
Plus 37.
Oh, because you didn't put them in parentheses.
Oh.
You gotta do it like this.
It used to be bad.
You gotta do it like this. 65 plus 37 divided by 2.
Oh.
I guess I did the same thing.
Yeah. All right. Now, this one here, it's asking for the measure of angle RNM. That's this one. But now look at this. Wait a second. I don't have these two arcs. I have these two arcs.
Which two?
I have these two arcs. So I can solve for this angle here. So that angle, I'll call it X, is equal to half of 91 plus 225 over 2.
91
So that's,
225?
yeah, 91 plus 225 is 316 over 2, 158. Good job. So that's 158, but wait a second. What's the blue angle? Because that's what I'm actually interested in.
Minus 180?
180 minus 158.
22.
Good job, because they're supplementary. You see that? Do you guys see, Mr. Corey? Ms. Jones, do you see that? These two angles are supplementary. So I have to solve for this angle first because it's the average of these two. And then to get this one, I just subtract from 180. Does that make sense? All right. You guys ready to Kahoot?
Let's Kahoot it.
No, we don't have a daily quiz today.
Wait, I need the game quiz.
Oh, it is
5-7. Wait, let me get this
I think I got it.
Okay, so 104
so STU.
plus 30. 67.
Oh, wait.
I'm so sorry.
I think I should do a Kahoot tournament at the end of this class.
You should,
That
Mr.
actually
Moore.
counts.
Extra credit.
Yes,
Extra credit,
extra
yeah.
credit.
They don't want to say extra
The
credit.
thing that's rough about the thing. Good job. Good.
The thing is, you can get every single question right, but if you're not fast enough, you won't get it.
Yeah.
Ooh, grades.
Ooh, grades. Okay. All right. Next part. Now, what if you have a situation like this, where you have an angle, look, where the vertex is outside of it? Well, in this case, the angle is equal to not the average, but 1/2 of the difference. Okay? So like in this case, look, I've got this arc and this arc. This angle is half of the difference between the bigger and the smaller. You see? One minus the other. Does that make sense? So when the angle is outside, it's not the average, it's half of the difference. Okay, does that make sense? So instead of doing 1/2 of one plus the other, you're doing 1/2 of one minus the other. Okay, so let's look at it. So let's look at these examples.
I had issues.
Shh. So look, in this example, it's asking for this angle x. You see, the vertex is outside of the circle, right? So I know that this angle is half of the difference between these. So it's 1/2, 174 minus 98. 1/2 of that is 38 degrees, you see? Now this one's a little bit more tricky, because this one doesn't give you both of the arcs. But what do I know about these arcs? What do they have to add up to? 360. So to find this one, I just do 360 minus 132, and I get 228.
And then you have to subtract that by 1.
And then I find this is 1/2 of the difference. 1/2 of 228 minus 132 is 48. You see? So when it's outside of the circle, it's 1/2 of the difference.
So then, okay.
Does that make sense?
Wait, would be
Oh
talking
my
about the
gosh, did you hear that?
But you cracking my knuckles?
No, my wrist.
Oh, sorry.
I
Okay.
can't run anymore.
How did we get-
Subtract it again by 132. Good job.
Once we get the 228, because we had to get this arc, right? So once we got that, this angle is half of the difference. Half of 228 minus 132.
Oh,
1/2
so you're trying to get
angle x, exactly. But we had to get this arc first.
Yeah, so what do
This
you
one here?
have to do the 228?
Once I got the 228, so I got the 228, that's the arc, right? Once I got that, I take 1/2 of the difference between these two. So 1/2 of 228 minus 132.
Whatever's the most convenient for you, mate, the rest of it.
Yeah, sure. After this bit. Okay, so let's take a look here. After you do the Kahoot for this, okay?
Alright.
All right. Find the value of x. Go ahead and see if you can do that on your own.
Can you put like background music while you teach?
I totally would do that.
I don't know.
Put
It's
the Kahoot
quiet.
music in the background.
I feel you. Like classical music or something.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty of me floating between classrooms. It's like I always have to set up everything, each time. Whereas if I have my own class, I probably have a little speaker system. You know what I mean?
That'd be so cool.
And just
What
like
about
set
you
it
like
up.
a portable one? What do you call it?
I could just play it on YouTube, and I do sometimes. I do.
Yeah, because 8 minus 2 is
No, it's not.
Okay.
That is
Shh, shh, shh.
8 times 2.
8 minus 2.
Oh.
What is it? It's 47.
All right. So I know this. Okay, this is a little bit different. Okay, look. This is the arc. I know that 25. The angle is half of the difference between these two arcs. So this angle 25 is 1/2 of 83 minus x. You see that? the angle is half of the difference between these arcs. Usually I gave you the angle, but this time, usually you're looking for the angle. This time you have the angle. You're looking for this arc. So this angle, 25, is half of the difference between 83 and x. So 1/2 of 83 minus x.
But couldn't you just do 360 minus 83?
That's how I did.
No,
Well, that's how I did.
no, you can't because
Oh, yeah,
that's
it's like the
not
whole thing.
including this
It's
one.
not-
and this
oh,
one.
it's not
right?
the-
So it's that angle 25 is half of 83 minus x. So what do I do to solve for x? I multiply both sides by 2. It cancels out the half. And I get 50 equals 83 minus x. Now what do I do?
You add 83.
I can subtract 83 from both sides, right? 50 minus 83 is
30.
negative 33 equals negative x. If negative 33 equals negative x, I divide by -1.
X equals
Cancels the negative x equals 33.
I got 54.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
If you got 54, it's just because you did 25 plus 83 and you averaged them. But that doesn't work in that way. That only works when you're looking for the angle. Here we were looking for the arc. So you have to set up the equation. You see the difference, guys? Does everyone see the difference between this problem and the last two? In this one, we already have the angle, so 25 equals half of 83 minus x. You have to set up the equation and then solve for x. Okay, any questions? Yeah, sure. Okay. Divide by -1, you get x is 33. All right, Kahoot time. Go ahead, solve for x.
It helped me out, and I was doing so good.
I'm sorry.
What was
Okay. The angle is, you're looking for the angle this time. You've got both arcs. Let's take a look. The angle x is half of the difference between 161 and 67. 161 minus 67 is 94. Half of 94 is 47. Okay? So the answer is 47. Okay, not just 94, half of 94. Okay, last one. Solve for x. Okay, look, you only have one arc this time. How do you get the second arc? How do you get the second arc?
Oh, I remember.
What do those two arcs have to add up to? 360. Because it goes around the whole circle, right? So to find that one,
Wait, what's the other choices?
Oh, it's over X.
Oh, I got wrong.
to solve for that arc, you have to subtract from 360.
I hope that is right. What are we gonna do for
Okay.
the rest of the class?
That's a good question. It's been a while since we've.
You can do the quiz from last time.
Oh yeah, the quizzes that everyone has to take.
Yeah, I can open up those quizzes for you, and you guys can take them. All right. So look, to get this arc, to get
I got
that
it wrong.
arc,
You're right.
look. Shh. To get that arc, you do 360 minus 238, and you get 122. So this arc is 122, not the angle, the arc. So to find the angle, you do x is 1/2 of the difference, 238 minus 122, or 1/2 of 238 minus 122 is 116, or half of that is 58
Use
degrees.
the bathroom now.
Does that make sense? Yes, sir. Any questions on that? All right, let's see. Rachel, nicely done. All 5 correct. Good job. All right. Cool. Show feedback. 0. Nice. Priscilla in 4th. That's because you got the first 3 right?
Well, no, it,
And then you
I
logged
was
out.
third.
Yeah.
I logged out. But that's not me. I think that's someone else.
Oh, really?
But I was actually third.
Oh, okay.
Before I got
All right, so the last page, so everybody turn to the last page, because the last page is pretty clutch in this. Take a look at that. On this last page here, it gives us kind of a cheat sheet of everything that we just learned. So look. If the angle, if it's an inscribed angle like this, then the angle is half, right? Same thing is true when I have an angle like this, where one side is the chord, and the other side is tangent. It's still half of the arc, you see? So if you see an angle where the vertex is on the circle, if the vertex of the angle is on the circle, you see, then the angle is half of the arc. You see that? Does that make sense? Let's lower our computer so we're not distracted. Okay? If the vertex is on the circle, you see the vertex is on the circle, then the angle is half of the arc. If the vertex is inside the circle, then the angle is the average, or half of the sum. You see? If it's inside the circle, it's half of the sum of the 2 arcs. You see? If it's outside the circle, it's half of the difference. Okay? So if it's on the circle, it's just half. If it's inside the circle, it's half the sum of the 2 arcs. If it's outside the circle, it's half the difference. See that? Yeah. So I think that right there is pretty cool and just kind of learning it. Now, let's go through. What was that? You have a question?
Is there a quiz today?
There's no daily quiz today, no. Okay, so let's take a look at this question. I want you guys to think about this for a few minutes, okay? Just take a look at that and think about it and see if you can figure out the answer. It's asking for the measure of arc LP. What's LP? This. Okay? LP is this. It tells you that this whole arc, L to R, is 100. Okay? So you know this is 100. So to find this, all you have to do is be able to find this little piece and figure out what that is. Okay? So let's think about this. I'll give you another minute. This angle here, it's a little confusing because this angle is what's 26 degrees. This angle is 26 degrees here. Okay?
You use that though.
Good question. How do I use that?
Oh, it's not the.
Look, if I know this whole thing is 100, and I'm just looking for this piece, then all I have to do is find this piece, right? Because if I find this piece, I do 100 minus that little piece, and I can get that. The question is, how do I find this piece? How do I find that piece?
Oh, you have to. Fill in 80 degrees. So it would be
Yeah.
1/2.
This is 80, right? This is 80. I'm trying to find this, so I'll call this x. All right? So what do I know about this angle? This angle is 26 degrees here. It's outside of the circle, so it's 1/2 of the what?
1/2.
Of the sum or the difference?
Difference is different.
1/2 of the difference. So 26 degrees equals 1/2 of the difference between 80 minus x, exactly. You see that?
Then you would get 40 minus.
So to solve for this, I multiply both sides by 2, right? That cancels out. I get 52 degrees equals, I get 52 degrees equals 80 minus x. See? Then I can subtract 80 from both sides. (52 minus 80 is negative 28 equals x, equals negative x rather. Divide both sides by negative 1. Cancels the negative. I end up with x equals 28. Okay, so that's good. So I found that this is 28. So how do I get LP?
100 minus 28.
Yeah, 100 minus 28. So the measure of arc LP is 100 minus 28, which is 72 degrees. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. Good job today, class. So that's it for our lesson for the day. If you're missing any daily quizzes, I recommend that you do them now because you've basically got 10 minutes. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to reopen them and extend them for you. So just get them done. Any questions? All right. Good job.